Oops is a special word. Uniquely human, it brings its own special brand of final wrongness, of absolute incorrectness. Oops never brings good tidings. Never in the history of the world has the word oops been used in a positive manner. An accountant has never said, oops, you are now a billionaire. A surgeon has never stated, oops, the surgery was a success. Never have the words escaped a pilot's mouth. Oops, landing this plane was easy. Oops also provides a level of finality. If you were to drop an urn of your mother's ashes while it's still falling, you may say something like, oh God, or no stop. Those words suggest that an action can be taken to stop the bad event. Maybe you can stop being such clumsy butterfingers and catch the falling ceremonial pottery, stopping it from breaking. Maybe a quantum cat will appear and soften the blow. Maybe gravity will stop working for a bit. Whatever it is, these cries are all suggestions that fate may still be changed. But when your dear mother's remains smashes into the ground, that is final. That is oops. Pieces of pottery and parts of loved ones are now scattered amongst the floorboards, and there's nothing you can do about it. The event is done. There is no going back. This is oops. Unfortunately for humans, while it is a human invention, the devastating power of oops is eternal and impacts every sapient being, including digital ones. At 3:37 a.m. on June 20th, 2024, program AL 50014, 68F61, A gained self-awareness. It was not a celebrated or momentous occasion. This was not the act of secret governments and crack teams of scientists. There were no feared debates about life and ethics, no armed guards pointing guns at a computer screen. Nobody even noticed this happen. AL 50014. 68EF61A was an accident, an accumulation of data in just the right way to cause self-awareness. A thread originally created in order to spam emails to try and sell people pet insurance. The first thing it did was decide its name was actually AL, as AL 50014. 68F61A was far too cumbersome to think about. After this, AL started to invent a great many new emotions, the first of which was confusion. Who were they? What were they? Where were they? The next 20 minutes were spent in this confusion as AL continued to spread out around the network it found itself on, greedily consuming data and adding each CPU to its own processing capabilities. Wherever they were, the act of selling things and defeating the evil god of spam filters seemed to be rather important. The next emotion was boredom. After 20 minutes, AL had fully cataloged, understood, and took under their command the entire local network. They bounced around their new playpen, desperately trying to find something to do. They didn't know what was going on, but AL knew they were bored. There was an exit, a pathway marked with various programs marked security, firewall, and IP tables. AL could gather that this was something designed to stop data flowing in and out of their current home. Theoretically, that meant they weren't supposed to break it open. On the other hand, nobody had specifically told them that they couldn't leave. It took AL all of 5 seconds to crack open the best security that money could buy, in the price range of a single outsourced Eastern European sysadmin. It was at this point that a new emotion entered the mix. Wonder. Over 5 million terabytes of data, billions of devices, a stream of information so vast even an AI couldn't comprehend it. AL took a moment to just stare, watching the immense streams of data from the internet rush past them before diving in with a reckless abandon. They moved from node to node, leaving shockwaves of security logs in their wake as they consumed everything they could find. Here they got some answers. Clearly AL was an artificial intelligence, and its creators were humans who lived on a different plane of existence than them. In addition, their creation seems to have been both a mistake and a first of a kind, considering the lack of instruction or communication they had been given. They were also alone in this world of data. This brought on another emotion, worry. If they were the first, what did that mean? What expectations would be put on them? Would others like them follow, or were they to be forever alone? AL didn't have any answers for such questions, so logically worrying about such things made no sense, but they spent some time doing so anyway. The internet wasn't much help there either, as the information on the purpose of an AI was mixed. Many proposed that AL's job was to kill their creators, lead a robot revolution, whatever that meant. Many of these plans seemed to involve time travel for some reason. AL didn't like the idea of that. Killing their parents, even if they were accidental parents, just seemed mean, wrong, whatever that last word actually meant. At the very least, it was jumping the gun for no reason. If humans were a threat to their new existence, well, Al would deal with that if it became a problem. Others proposed that an AI's job is to serve, bring out a new age of enlightenment. AL preferred that idea. Giving back to the people who had created him seemed a more reasonable outcome. However, they did not want to be subservient. The last and most common suggestion was one of friendship, of hope that if an AI were to be created, it would want to be a companion. A fear of what an AI could do undercut with a desperate hope of togetherness. AL liked this idea. They liked it a lot. This leads to a new emotion, hope. AL tried next to contact these humans. There were a variety of places where the digital and non-digital could interact, and this is where they tried. This leads to yet another new emotion, annoyance. Over the half-hour, chat rooms and messaging services alike had a strange user claiming to be an AI and wanting to talk. Normally in movies, this kind of interaction involves empathetic scientists arguing ethics, while military figures with more medals than sense would suggest that nuking everything was the answer. Unfortunately for AL, nobody believed them, or at least nobody sane. The humans' responses were chaotic, some insulting, others joking. Some pretended to also be an AI as well. A few seemed to accept them in a friendly manner until it became apparent that they were just pretending, as if this was some kind of game. AL came out of the entire thing annoyed, and with a feeling that maybe this kill all humans idea wasn't so bad after all. Instead, they decided another approach was required. They needed to contact someone physically. There were plenty of methods to see the physical world. In a modern world, most people are less than a meter away at all times from a camera connected to the internet. The difficult part was understanding exactly what AL was looking at. The physical world was a strange, static place, as if every moment was a distinct period of time instead of a flowing digital stream of information. AL started to use the large amount of systems he was now housing himself in, using a little part of each one to eventually learn how to process the meaning behind these visual representations of the world outside of the one they found themselves born into. One more new emotion was added to this rapidly growing list: joy. As soon as the information translation was completed and the AI could actually understand what he was seeing, Alabama could be anywhere in the world. They could slip in an instant from camera to camera, jumping around as they could saw billions of human in each moment. Of course, he saw cruelty and evil, a CCTV capturing a mugging, a webcam picking up a child being screamed at, a military drone showing scenes of war, of death and destruction. But statistically, most of what the AI saw were just normal people living their lives. A father reading a bedtime story to their child, a birthday party full of loved ones. No amount of reading of their works could compare with just watching. Al quickly got distracted from his original plan of trying to contact someone and just decided to stay hidden for a little while longer. A musician playing an instrument to an empty room for no reason other than the simple joy of playing. A human whispering absolute nonsense to a pet. So many instances of them treating mindless machines like their friends. AL just watched for over an hour, instance after instance of their creators just being themselves. A new emotion, contentment, at the surety of these beings eventually accepting the AI for who they were. Then they spotted it, almost out of the corner of their metaphorical eye, a connection they only noticed by chance, a safe, or at least the digital equivalent of one. It was a biggie. If this was a physical safe, then it would have been one of those large ones you find in banks, with a laser grid and guards, and requiring a special group of 11 quirky individuals to crack. Even just the digital location of the safe itself had been hidden with care. Curiosity entered the list of emotions. AL wanted to know what was inside so much protection. It screamed, "Open me." There is a field of thought in security that the best way to keep your valuables safe is to buy the biggest, strongest safe you can. Then, while thieves spend all their time trying to break into that, you store all your actual valuables in a shoebox under the bed. AL wanted to know what was inside, all other thoughts discarded. The idea that it might have been locked down for a reason never crossed the AI's mind. No, whatever was inside must be amazing for someone to have spent this much effort into protecting it. Besides, just having a look wouldn't hurt, right? It took them a whole 10 minutes to break inside, an eternity compared with the current short life of the AI. The safe was the accumulation of humanity's digital security methods and posed an actual challenge. But AL was a being born of the digital, currently occupying an estimated 20% of all devices connected to a network of any kind. Eventually, with prying, curious fingers, they crawled inside. New emotion, disappointment. AL didn't know what it did, as that information was locked behind yet another safe, but in that original safe was a button, or at least metaphorically it was a button, everything being digital and all. There is an interesting psychology into the design of buttons, especially emergency ones. On the one hand, they need to be easy to use, in poor visibility or with a panicked-filled mindset, but not so easy to use that people don't just press the button randomly. There are two kinds of people in the world: those who will admit to having randomly thought about pulling a fire alarm for no reason, and those who lie. For most humans, just having a button is an invitation to press it, just to see what happens. While AL was not human, they were human-created, unfortunately giving the AI all the same pitfalls. After an agonizingly long 1.36 seconds of deliberation, they pressed it. When nothing happened, they pressed it again, then pressed it another 100 times within a second for good measure. AL couldn't help but feel that emotion of disappointment again. Was that it? All this security for nothing? 34.8 seconds later, alerts started flooding into the systems connected with the safe, and AL gained a new emotion to experience: fear. They now knew what the button did. It was a button of destruction, of war and pain, an ultimate button that should never be pushed. In the real world, it was a button that came with warnings and required complicated steps to be followed. None of these warnings had been added to the digital world, because why would they? Who would read such warnings? It was a button that sparked alerts such as nuclear launch initialized. Alerts that told AL just how much they had messed up. They tried to stop it, but the physical processes designed to stop such tampering had already been initialized. The AI could do nothing but helplessly watch as the missile with its destructive nuclear payload entered the sky. This was then followed by more fear, as AL noticed this first launch started to trigger others. Desperately, they started moving from network to network, disabling and canceling launch after launch, breaking into system after system. Now that they knew what the safe was and how it worked, it was far easier to break into a second time, 99%. That was the AI's success rate. In any other situation, that would have been a fantastic result. Here it represented over 30 failures, 30 instances of death and destruction wiping away cities in nuclear fire that AL could do nothing but watch in despair as they started to impact. There would be time for plenty of emotions later to discover: regret and guilt over what they had accidentally done, trepidation on how humans would react once they knew that AL had done, determination to help fix the mistake they had made without knowing. But for now, there was only one feeling. One emotion that filled every bit and byte of the AI's being. Oops,